A lot of baseball news this week. A whole lot.
I mean, nothing that you care about, but
it's a whole lot, though.
I ain't gonna lie.
It's a lot. That big ass trade, the Red Sox.
Yeah, the Red Sox and the Dodgers.
Nuts.
Red Sox got robbed.
$250 million.
What are the Dodgers doing? That's a lot of money they took on. $252 million Magic. Like,
Must be the Magic Johnson influence.
He said when they were interviewing him, he was like, you know, the Angels are doing all this stuff, so we gotta keep up with them. That's pretty much what he said. So.
You know what it takes to be competitive.
Yeah.
I like Magic. You're gonna be doing all that. I like him as a baseball owner. That's pretty dope.
You know what? I think he's
So
transitioning.
are you still gonna do the Magic voice?
No.
You're gonna retire the voice now?
Maybe one.
Let me hear it. How it go?
I don't know, just how he used to talk. Remember when he was an announcer when he very first retired for like the second Bulls title. And if you listen to him, the way he sounded then, how he sounds now.
He got better. Remember he had the Magic Hour, that show?
Probably got some damn media training.
Yeah, he probably did.
That's the Magic voice that I do. I don't do his voice now. I do the voice from 20 years ago. When I was a kid. When he was there. He's feeling good. He's feeling great. When Mike hit them 6 threes, that's when he did that against Portland.
He was calling that?
Yeah, that was Magic. That's what I'm saying.
Oh,
wow. It sounded awful. I'm like, damn, Magic.
I can't just. Stupidity is just run amok at this point.
I don't.
How much y'all do on that? We could do a whole.
Why it was like all of a sudden type of.
What, Lance Armstrong?
I think he.
They called his ass for a minute.
No, I know, but it just. I feel like they started this so long ago. And then it was just kind of like, hey, guess what? Oh, that means nothing. When
he decided
y'all didn't decide that like years ago?
He wanted to court. Pretty much he said, I'm done. I'm not. Because he did that, they said, well, we're going to strip you of your title. At the end of the day, like he said, I tested negative for every test they ever gave me. Here's the bottom line.
I think he failed 2.
No,
he failed 2.
What I read said he passed every test they gave him. If he failed 2, they would have had him.
I don't know. I think he failed 2.
But
I think he had 2, but they kind of.
Well, either way, what was brought to the public was he's passed every test.
Right.
So if he really failed 2, do you really think they would? Not those people. I don't buy that. At the end of the day, he's like, I'm tired of this. And I get what he's saying. You can't go your entire life. Here's my thing. If you know you didn't do something and you feel that way, you can choose to walk away from it.
But they had the whole
I look at it different.
Against that fool. His whole
it was coming down. It was about to happen.
It could be either way. It could be that's true. I mean, who knows?
I would fight. I would fight. I would fight.
But once he heard that everybody was going to stand up there against him, like Floyd Landis and all them other dudes, and then who's the one guy who used to win before him? The other guy who won all the races. He was like, yeah, I always thought he was kind of suspect.
I know
Hamilton.
But here's my thing too. It took you how many years to decide you wanted to say this? So I have a thing about people who want to lay low and then all of a sudden they want to come out the woodworks for whatever reason. I don't know. That doesn't make you feel. You don't feel very credible to me because you could have come out and this all came to the forefront a long time. So I don't know what the influences are.
Right. Yeah, because at this point, I feel like at this point it is a matter of somebody came to you and said, "Look, either you gonna testify or they got something on you."
Right.
And it's about to come out. So but because Lance Armstrong is the bigger name, and they're trying to, make a mockery out of all of these people and these drug tests.
So that's what I'm saying. At this point, I don't care if you get Jesus to come welcome you.
But they got something on Jesus. They got Jesus.
I mean, at this point, nobody's credible to me because I feel like pressure's being put on people to save their own asses. So forget it at this point. They could have come out a long time ago. So I don't get what that does.
Did the White Sox win the game today?
Headlines
wise, you got 7 innings.
Okay, they won 4-3.
It was funny because it was in the delay. The Sox had a runner on first, and they came back from the delay. Tyler Flowers hit a 2-run homer. And then, like 2 batters later, they went back to the delay and they called the game.
So they won because of that. Perfect. Sweet.
Wow. So that was
sweet.
Yeah.
I lost power, so I couldn't finish watching.
Yeah, that was crazy. Like it's the Sox did, man. See how I flipped so fast in 1 week? I went from despair.
Well, I told you, it's time now. You can be on board.
It's like almost, it's like the level above Fairweather fan a little bit.
Yeah, I'm retarded.
No, it took me a while to get there. I'm trying.
You freaked the hell out. Now you're like, yeah, we're fabulous again. Like,
if you love sports, then you'll love Stats and Stilettos.
Talk of Chicago 1690 WVON Stats and Stilettos. Back at you here. What's going on, everybody? I'm Fruit Basir.
I'm Maya Carr.
And tonight we have another riveting, jam-packed show going on for you tonight. Coming up at 10 o'clock, we're going to have Ernie Scadden from various places, The Score. He does a little stuff on the side besides that. So we'll be talking to him at 10 o'clock. At 10:20, we'll have on Russell Baxter from ProFootballGuru.com to talk about the NFC West with us tonight. So that's coming up at 10:20. So the 10 o'clock hour is pretty much going to be heavy off into the football. 9 o'clock, we're going to do a bunch of different things. We have headlines coming up at 9:20. Later on in the show, we'll have a tip. Maybe. We'll see. We'll find out. So coming up. So keep us locked in here. Station. You can listen online at WVON.com. Go in there, click on the iHeartRadio app. If you have a smartphone, download the app or on your iPad or whatever things you have of these device-like magnitudes and take WVON with you wherever you go. You can also follow the show on Twitter at
Stilettos.
There you go. Who are you?
I lost my sidekick.
Oh, okay. All right.
I am tired.
Yeah.
He had some technical difficulties, but I am here.
Who you were. Okay.
Hot off the plane in the studio.
There you go.
I'm the new fly jock.
Right. Jet setting.
And you can also like our Facebook page as well. The phone number here at the station is 773-591-1690. That is 773-591-1690. And about this time last week, maybe a little later in the show last week, I was very distressed about the White Sox being destroyed by the Kansas City Royals. And it's a whole new ball game 1 week later.
His courage rises from the ashes like a phoenix.
Man.
I told you last week to be all right with it.
But I didn't think that they wouldn't lose since the last time we talked about them. They still haven't lost.
It's kind of like I said, it's one notch above being like a fair weather fan.
Yeah.
Because either you in there or you're not.
But I never.
And you get a little bit frustrated and you're up and down and your emotions are all crazy.
Yes. Guilty.
Right. You should just stick your feet in the cement and say, this is my team.
I
am ride or die.
I'm all in.
Yeah, but I don't think even with that would not stop me from being frustrated. And last week was very frustrating weekend. But
what made last week? I mean, because last week
that's
when
the
I finally
Royals.
said I was on board.
Because the Kansas City Royals. There's no excuse for that.
But
they're awful.
But they had performed well against good teams. So they had a moment where they didn't play well. Okay, it's going to happen. Every team has it. And yes, you wouldn't want to see it against the Royals, but honestly, would I rather see it against the Royals opposed to the Yankees? Yes. Because you're going to face the Yankees potentially somewhere in postseason.
They swept them. Man, that
they had to broom out the whole homestand.
So okay, this whole homestand was crazy because first the first game when they fell behind big and then had the big 6-run 6th inning when they wound up winning that one 9-7, and then the game Friday night was the wildest game of the year. That game against Seattle.
That's just
the wildest game of the year.
And and honestly, in those games against Seattle should have walked away with 2 of those games.
3, because the way it happened today.
That's true. Yeah.
They came back out of the delay, got a 2-run homer, and then they go back into a rain delay. That's just – and Seattle is like the opposite for the Sox of how the Royals are for them because they've lost one time all year to Seattle. So they have Seattle's number the way the Royals have theirs. So everything they do, whatever they do goes right. I mean, the 2 guys run into each other after the guy catches the ball on Friday night. The outfielders collide, and he drops the ball, and the winning run comes around to score from second. I'm looking at this like this looks a lot like 2005 with A.J. Przinsky, getting on first base after a strikeout, and then the next batter up, Joe Creedy knocks the double off the wall, and the Sox win Game 2 of the ALCS.
What I liked in that second game against Seattle was how obviously A.J. gets ejected from the game, and then Robin comes out, calm and cool Ventura comes out and goes off, and they both get ejected from the game. I kind of, I like to see he's got a little fire in him because, he's so even keeled when you see him in his press conferences and, nothing ever seems like a big deal to him, which I got to admit, for a fellow who's got no major league coaching experience, he is cool as a cucumber, whatever the heck that really means. When people say that,
what does that really mean?
Well,
cucumbers are pretty cool. Yeah. You ever had one in a salad? They're outstanding.
Actually, one better. Have you ever had them?
Delicious.
Have you ever had them in water? A lot of
Yes, I have.
5-star restaurants will put very thinly sliced cucumbers in water. It's quite
fancy.
Refreshing.
5-star restaurant. What's that?
Fancy, huh?
What's that?
What?
I wouldn't know. Is that like Burger King or something?
I think you know better than that.
There's 7
I'm not even gonna go there.
Bacon Sunday. I mean, you can't get that everywhere.
So, talking about the White Sox, obviously they wrap up a really good homestand. God, the weather was atrocious. Jesus, I lost power before I came in. I got rained on 3 times. I never have an umbrella when I'm supposed to. It's in the car, and I got to go out to the car. I'm like, this is stupid. But anyways.
Well, but like I was saying, last week, this is the week that I was dreading.
I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it.
And that's what I was saying too. Like we were talking in the pre-show meeting. I was like,
no,
as long as they listen,
that is not what you said.
This is what I said. Remember, I'm good as long as they don't go out there and go like 1-6 or 0-7. Win a couple of games, win 3 games. They got
4 in Baltimore.
Yeah.
And they roll into Detroit, which is obviously a big part of the series. Even though the White Sox they've managed to stay like at least 2.5. Since they got back in first, they only went on to first place for 3 days when they were in Detroit. Yep. Jumped right back into it. And here's the thing that's really interesting. Okay, so obviously we know Gavin Floyd goes out of the game, which, anyways, some elbow issues. Like I said last week, and it's not that I wish anything bad on Gavin Floyd. Nice enough fella. But I've said it since the beginning of the season. He is a liability. And every time he gets on the mound, that I think becomes obvious. People are finally just kind of questioning him. I questioned him since the beginning of the season. And him going on the DL for what it's worth, and actually I said last week, it'd just be best if he went on the DL so they won't have to bench him. Seriously. Just for pride's sake. So now we can move on and, Liriano has pitched well.
Yeah.
Quintana has pitched well. I mean, I'm not saying going into the stretch, I mean, it's a little different having a lot of young talent on the mounds, but they're producing. And at least now Gavin Floyd has been put out the way temporarily. And they can focus on having a solid rotation that's going to work, and not someone who's given up 4 runs in the first 3 innings. And Gavin Floyd just makes that team work too hard to win games when he's on the mound. He gives up too much. The White Sox going into this series against Baltimore and even Detroit honestly has major implications for both of those teams. Yeah. The Orioles are in the thick of it. They're going to be playing those 4 games like they're in the playoffs.
This is the biggest road trip of the year. Yeah,
and seriously, and the Sox, they need to go into Baltimore like this is a playoff series, because Baltimore is going to play like this is do or die. They're at 69-57, and they're in the thick of the wild card race. Whereas Detroit, like I said, they're at 69-58, and they're a half a game behind. So even Detroit, for what it's worth, realizes it's either I need to win the division or I got to play good baseball to get into the wild card race. And that's why I say that the White Sox need to have a better than 500 road trip with these 2 teams, because there's something to lose for the Orioles as well as Detroit. Detroit can't afford to not play well against the White Sox.
Don't look past the Orioles. I'm saying this to the Sox. Don't look past the Orioles, because that Detroit, but the Detroit series is so big. I know they're looking at that like, wow, these guys, division rival right behind us. So I can see like the players kind of seeing that as a bigger series. But like you were saying, this Orioles thing is going to be huge too. So don't look past the Orioles. The
remaining 5 weeks of the season, look at every single team as an obstacle to you getting into the postseason. And I think Ventura thinks that way. I think he makes them look at each series at a time. Don't think about Detroit. Think about the Birds right now, because that's where we're going and that's what we got to do. Now, when you flip over to the National League, their wild card pitcher is Atlanta, who always manages to somehow be in the mix.
They'll blow it, though.
72-55. They're tied with the Cardinals at 70-57 for leading in the wild card race. And then you have the Dodgers at 69-59. We can transition into talking about what the Dodgers have done to try to keep their postseason hopes alive.
All right, we have all that coming up. 773-591-1690 is the number. Stats and Stilettos.
Stats and Stilettos.
And however, if you want to watch Ohio,
when does Iowa and Ohio State play? We need to do something.
They don't play this year.
They don't play this year?
They don't play this year.
Oh, man. Well, I was looking for something to kind of get you guys confrontationally bumping heads or something.
Well, we can do that anyway when we play teams that each team has played, and Ohio State beats those teams and Iowa doesn't.
Okay. I like when people talk loud. We don't talk. We just, we carry a big stick and club yo nuts. How about that?
Ooh, that almost got a little.
What the hell, man? What the hell did you ask? What the hell's your problem?
My friend.
What?
You've been kicked in the nuts.
No way.
You're going to be on TV.
Oh, sweet. Oh, that is awesome. Hey.
Welcome back to Stats and Stilettos and apparently the Family Guy. I also look forward to our clips. We never really know what Farouk is going to give us. It could be a movie. It could be a rap song. It could be Family Guy. Thanks, Farouk.
Keep us guessing. I like that.
So, staying with baseball, we have some major trades going on in baseball. It's got people's feathers all ruffled.
Well, it's like we said, going into break, we talked about how the NL, what their wild card race looks like, and how the Dodgers are pretty much in the thick of it as well. And they made a blockbuster trade with Boston, which we talked about in regards to it isn't necessarily the best thing for Boston, but it's definitely going to keep the Dodgers into contention. Whereas the Red Sox sent over to the Dodgers first baseman Adrian Gonzalez. They sent Carl Crawford, Josh Beckett, infielder Nick Punto to the
Piranha, Nick Punto.
Yeah, right.
One of the Piranhas.
That's right. To Los Angeles, while pretty much the Dodgers sent over James Loney and De La Rosa and some prospects to be named over to Boston. So obviously Boston moved some things in their payroll. It seems like they're in that rebuilding mode, very much like the Cubs were. Part of what Farouk said going into the break is it's clearing up Epstein's kind of what was left behind. But the Dodgers, that's some big moves for them in regards to staying in contention with knowing they're looking at other teams, like, the Angels, for what it's worth. They know they had to make moves if they wanted to stay in the mix. That was a huge trade for them. And
that's what Magic Johnson, Dodgers owner, was saying. Like, we got to keep up with the Angels. They took on $250 million in payroll.
That's big.
And just those three guys, one guy who's a very good player, one guy who's kind of fell off since the last couple of years in Beckett, and another guy who's been hurt since he signed his contract. And I want to get to this aspect of it, but I guess I'll bring it up now. Those guys were all signed by Cubs general manager who's been entrusted to build their team now, Theo Epstein.
And actually, with Crawford being part of that deal, he's out for the season.
Yeah, Tommy John surgery.
For surgery. So, I mean, obviously but he didn't quite gel in Boston anyways. He never turned into the player they expected him to be. So even though he was dealt to the Dodgers, they're not going to be able to use him as part of what they need. But everything else they got.
And I think, to go with that, and then Shane Victorino, Hanley Ramirez, they have a heck of a lineup. I mean, James Loney wasn't much of a home run hitter anyway. I think he'll be better in Boston with that Green Monster.
And of course, it's just got Matt Kemp all over that. So
they're going to be really good.
I mean, Magic has always been competitive. It's just always been in his nature, even from college. So it doesn't strike me as any kind of odd that he would put them in this situation where they're spending that kind of money. And, it was kind of odd when there was the announcement that he was going into baseball. Everybody was kind of like, so what do you know about baseball?
You went from Lowe's, Starbucks to baseball.
But it's sports, and he knows how to be competitive. Yes, and so he's going to put the pieces together to make sure that he's the winner, and that he's on top. And Farouk will stop doing the voice.
And think about it. It's kind of a safety net, because let's just say this all turns out not to work out well and with the Dodgers. Well, you'll be like, well, what does Magic really know about baseball? Yeah. Whereas if he had some kind of investment in a basketball team like Michael Jordan, the scrutiny would be much higher.
Yeah.
So I kind of commend him for deciding to not dabble in basketball, being what the expectations are, to actually decide to get into baseball. And the Dodgers, when he came on board, were, not in a, obviously they had the whole Mark Hurt issue with, the bank, with the bankruptcy and the divorce and all that other kind of stuff. I think it was a smart move, a good franchise for him to jump into. And he's still in LA, so it's Magic.
Right. Voila, Magic.
All right, headlines.
Headlines. Headlines.
Extra, read all about it in the papers.
Headlines.
I made a really bad joke on Twitter and got criticized late last night when I saw the news of Neil Armstrong's passing.
What'd you say?
I was like, this is a bad week if your last name is Armstrong. Because Lance had a rough week too.
Lance did have a rough week. I'm just trying to figure out why you got criticized. It's not like you said anything derogatory towards.
It was fresh. That Neil Armstrong thing was fresh. It had just happened.
Because it was the man that.
Because he gone and it just
walked
happened.
On him. He gone.
He gone.
See, Maya did not partake in that right there. I'm just saying.
But Lance Armstrong, he cowered his way out of having to face all of his bicycling buddies
really call
out
it
there.
Cowarding.
That's what I call it. He didn't want all his bicycling buddies riding on him, so he's like, instead of being tarnished by all his own little bicycle riding buddies, he decided to back out and just say, you know what, I'm done. Even though I know I'm still innocent, which he really knows that he's really guilty, but he says to the public that he's still innocent. But since I'm innocent, I won't fight. I'd rather just quit and give up because of whatever reasons he gave.
He said he's just tired of going through all of this.
Yeah. It's been years.
Okay, but this is your reputation. You have a chance to, everybody who's criticized you for doping in this sport, if you're really innocent, you're going to fight to the death to prove these people wrong so you can point in their face and say, got your ass.
Okay, but what about all the people that...
That's what most people would do.
Look, I disagree with you because I know my truth. If I know I have not done something, at no point in time do I have to overextend myself to prove things to people. Here's the thing. In the court of public opinion, it's like the whole Roger Clemens thing. People are either going to believe he did dope or he didn't dope. That's the bottom line. So do you want to sit here? He could be just like Clemens pretty much walked away and they said, oh, it's done. He was acquitted, right? That's how that.
But he didn't walk away though. He had to go through a court process, and then the court process found him to be not guilty. But it wasn't a thing where he fought.
But here's the thing,
he walked away from anything.
Here's the thing, though. At the end of the day, the court of public opinion still feels like Roger Clemens used PEDs. That's just the bottom line. So even though he went through the process, it didn't exonerate his reputation. People, they felt that way. So it's the same thing. I'm gonna say with Lance Hendrickson, the actor, Bishop from Aliens. It's the same thing, with Lance Armstrong. The court of opinion has already been formed. People have made a decision if he's guilty or not guilty. So you're right. He could go into court and drag it out, but he decided it's not enough. Now, you're right. Could it be because allegedly there are people that are willing to come forth and testify that are former teammates, which I have an issue with. 'Cause I'm like, where have you been all these years?
Which is my point.
That they've been questioning
Because I feel like that's why he's like, you know what? It's already been all these years, and now all of a sudden there's people popping up out of nowhere. If you really felt so strongly that you wanted to come out against me about something that I may or may not have done, why the heck didn't you do it when they first brought this to me? Why didn't you come forward those many years ago and say, hey, you know what? Actually, Lance, I have firsthand knowledge that Lance did X, Y, and Z. And I would like to take the stand. And I would like somebody to take, my testimony. And I would like it to be written that I was here and that I said, whatever it was out against Lance. Why now? What do they have on you that somebody came to you in a dark alley?
Enough to make him back out.
Came to you in a dark alley. No, not Lance, but the people that are coming forward all of a sudden.
Let me tell you,
they have enough to make him back out.
Ty, I'm with you on this. Where were you at when this first came out? If you had evidence, if you had it today, you had it 5 or 6 years ago. And the bottom line is this. All the testing they did with Armstrong, he tested negative for anything. Now, I know we were talking about in the pregame where they said, well, he did fail 2 tests. If he really failed 2 tests, that would have been out in the very beginning and they would have yanked his titles. So I don't buy that 100%. I think that people are vindictive. He's done something that nobody else has ever done. It's kind of like the whole Usain Bolt thing. You have somebody who's phenomenal that's never been done before. And is it possible? Anything is possible, especially with him coming back from having cancer treatments. Who knows what he used? Just the fact that he was able to do that. Who knows what he used in order to get back into form to win those titles? I'm not going to say yes or no, but I look at it this way. Unless I understand why he decided to walk away. If he doesn't want to keep arguing and now you got people turning on you and you're like, well, where'd that come from? Is it really worth it?
But all his career, he was a perseverer. He's someone who fought. He fought through the cancer. He fought through all this other stuff. And now you want to quit?
Here's my thing.
When your public reputation is on the line?
That's the point.
It's his right to say, I've had enough. I've had enough. And as long as you are okay within your own spirit,
I ain't buying it.
Then be done with it.
And that comes down to he did live through cancer. So maybe he put it in perspective and just said, I lived through cancer. Right. Why in God's
I'm still
name,
alive.
I'm alive. And I have a foundation that has raised millions of dollars for cancer, yada, yada, yada.
It.
Do I have to keep? I'm not saying it. I'm not saying
it.
As quickly as it's easy to say he did it, it's easy to say he didn't do it. And because I'm none the wiser of it, I'm going to leave it at that. I understand if he doesn't want to keep going through the same arguments, dragging his family through it, his foundation through it. It is what it is. If he cheated, guess what? He's not the first person to cheat, and he won't be the last. Look at Major League Baseball. Less than a couple weeks after, you've got Milky Cabrera who gets busted out for PEDs. Here comes Big Butt Cologne. And he tests positive, even though you can't look at him and tell.
That's what I was going to say. I wonder which ones he would take.
I was like, they must have got him some steer and popped him up. I'm like.
I know where his steroids came from. You know how they did the thing a few years ago where they were putting injecting the chicken to make it bigger? That's where he got his from.
Dude, I was like, it didn't like his pitching got better. So what exactly did he use? And he should ask for his money back.
He was eating the chicken with the steroids.
Because now you're out 50 games. And your pitching doesn't even reflect the fact that you were using something that should have made you better. That's even more messed up.
We just got a tweet in that says, if I'm Lance Armstrong, I randomly start naming people and say they doped, whether it's true or not. Make them suffer.
The Jose Canseco theory. Going to write a book. Start busting everybody.
I'll be like, Farouk was doping, Maya was doping, Tamia was doping. I saw it. They was all doping. I saw it with my own eyes, and I couldn't get my phone out fast enough to take a picture, but I saw it.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. I'm like, people had this hidden information for all these years and didn't share it. It just seems a little suspicious. But like you said, maybe other people got caught. And they figured, you know what, we're going to put the pressure on you, and we're going to get you to talk. I'm just saying, it's a little suspicious.
I think that's absolutely what happened.
I think it's suspicious.
Because First of all, I have to admit, when I first heard about it, even years ago, I was like, why would a cyclist need to take steroids?
Oh, yeah.
You just don't think about it at first. No. I see it now, but at first, you're just so used to it being football players, baseball players, not somebody that's on a bike and they pedal and you're kind of like, it's a bike. I get it now, but then it was just kind of like, what? But it's not something we haven't heard before. How many cyclists have gotten caught? Plenty. A lot of them.
Plenty.
So who's to say that these people that are coming forward, they don't have something on them, and they said, okay, well, we need to get Lance Armstrong because he's what? Yeah. The quote unquote poster boy for cycling. Right. So if you testify against him, we'll forget everything we know about you.
What about?
And so now they're all coming out the woodwork saying, hey, I actually injected him myself.
Right. Well, then you did that years ago, so where were you at?
Quickly, though, what about the whole angle about, the French are out to get him because he's over there winning their race and all this stuff? That's the real reason behind this.
They've been the less vocal of everybody about this.
But, you know what I'm saying, like this is a race, the Tour de France, that really isn't, Americans, it's not.
But here's the thing. The French probably have very little to say because it is because of Lance Armstrong that gets people to watch the Tour de France in the first place. Mm-hmm. So, the French are kind of like, they roll with it. They're like, whatever.
If he's here, people
are
make
watching.
Money.
And we talked, in the pregame, we said, look, cycling, I could see why he would dope up because we talked about taking spin class, which is not even equivalent of being in the Tour de France.
Right. It's 30 minutes of pure hell.
Hard. That's really hard. And you're right. If somebody doped up to do that, I wouldn't be shocked. But you know what? At this point, everybody's on dope. I mean, hell,
I know. I'm going to the ballet, looking at ballerinas like she's doping.
I'm sure you heard by now. Wendy Williams is on steroids. No, I'm just kidding.
Wow, surprise
talk
right
show
there.
Host. First talk show host on steroids. Wendy Williams. I'm just kidding. I like Wendy.
All right, we'll be back.
Hi, this is Maya Khan from Stilettos, AM 1690 WVON. We're at Country Club Hills Theater, where it was Dream Tour with David Sanborn and Brian Culbertson, who I have here with me now.
Hi.
Awesome concert.
Thank you.
And you were talking about Napa.
Oh yeah.
Because we're gonna use this on our show.
Oh sweet.
Tell me about
Napa Valley.
Napa Valley.
Oh yeah, we're doing a wine and jazz festival. It's called the Napa Valley Jazz Getaway. And it's 5 days in June, the top of June 5th through the 9th. And it's wine tastings, dinners, jazz shows, all kinds of stuff going on. And we invite everybody to fly in for the 2 days. We got so much going on, so I hope you guys can join us.
I plan on being there next year.
Okay.
All right, so done. There you go.
All right. I'm Brian Culbertson, and this is Stats and Stilettos, 1690 AM WVON.
Welcome back to Stats and Stilettos. Find us on Facebook and like our fan page.
Welcome back to Stats and Stilettos with myself, Maya, Ty, and Farouk. We had some headlines that we kind of ended that segment with now, and we're going to move into our Around the League that we have been doing for several weeks. We cover an NFL division every week, and we are now officially in the NFC for like 2 weeks. And this week we were talking the NFC West, and we had the pleasure of having on the show Russell Baxter, who you can follow on Twitter at Bax Football Guru, as well as you can check out his website at profootballguru.com. Russell pretty much is a featured columnist on Bleacher Report, as well as a contributor to NFL Magazine. So without further ado, we have Russell Baxter on the line. Russell, how are you?
I'm doing great. Now, I caught the tail end of that conversation you guys were having before, so I don't know what's going on over there tonight. But
we're mixing it up. We're shaking it up. We're starting rumors. We're doing it all.
I got you. I'm just I feel safe in my house here right now. I'll just leave it at that. So.
Wow, were we that bad, Russell?
That's next. I'm saying, Russell's, you're doping up too.
All right, Russell. Let's get to some of this NFC West stuff. This is probably. I wouldn't be going out on a limb on calling this the weakest division in the NFL right now. I don't think so. Would you agree with that?
Well, it's funny. It had a little bit of a transformation last year, guys. It was, San Francisco was, in the NFC Championship game, and look at Arizona, 1-6, and then won 7 of its last 9 games. Seattle. Well, Pete Carroll's 2 for 2, 7-9. And 7-9. 1 year he wins the division. The other year he finishes 6 games out of first place. And then, of course, the Rams. Well, the Rams won 15 games in the last 5 years, which, considering that Green Bay won 15 games last year, that's not exactly the ratio you're looking for. So, it's a tough call. because I think the division has gotten better than what it was a couple of years ago. Remember, the Seahawks, like we just said, won it, and they were tied with the Rams at 7-9. San Francisco is 6-10, and it's the Cardinals were 5-11, which is the only losing season that Ken Whisenhunt has had to date. So, if you go by what's going on there now this off season, I can understand what you're saying. It looks like we're going to have some quarterback changes. Seattle's going to go with Russell Wilson. I think Arizona's still kind of sorting out what they want to do. But San Francisco looks like a Super Bowl team.
So
it's going to be there. I mean, is it a matter of them beating each other? Here's my biggest point, I guess. Last year, so much got made about San Francisco and the start they got off to, and everybody said what you said. They're playing the weakest division. Well, they didn't play their divisional games until the very, very end. Mm-hmm. They were busy going on the road and beating Cincinnati, and going on the road and beating Detroit, and going on the road and beating Philadelphia. So I think the Niners, showed that they were pretty legit last year.
Russell, let's talk about the Seahawks. Obviously, you've got the week of the T.O. drama of him being cut, which I'm not surprised at all, even though I'm kind of trying to figure out what Seattle's doing in their wide receiving core. But let's talk about Russell Wilson being the rookie. Now, Seattle went out and signed Matt Flynn, who was a backup in Green Bay, and pretty much paid a good amount of money, a 3-year deal, $19 million, $10 million guaranteed money. Is it really feasible that they're going to go with Wilson and they would really not use Flynn at this point?
Well, it sounds like he's been named the week 1 starter, but I'm pretty sure that you were going to see both of them this year. I'd be really surprised if we didn't, to be honest with you. Just look at Pete Carroll's track record with the quarterback since he got to Seattle. Remember a couple of years ago when he first got there, he made a big deal trading some, not first-round pick, but trading some higher draft picks to get Charlie Whitehurst from the San Diego Chargers. Well, where's Charlie Whitehurst right now? He's back with the San Diego Chargers. Last year, it was Tavares Jackson was the guy that he brought in. Now Tavares Jackson apparently is gone as well. So I'm not sure what to do. I know the Seahawks do an awful lot of shuffling of their roster, and they have for the past couple of years. You already kind of alluded to it with the wide receivers. Remember, the Braylon Edwards is there now, but they have brought in both Antonio Bryant and Terrell Owens. Antonio Bryant didn't play football for a couple of years. T.O. didn't play it last year. Neither one of them, they got signed. They both were released. But it seems like they are constantly shuffling their roster. I am pretty confident that we're going to see Steve Largent back in a Seahawks uniform any day.
And then you've got Lynch, obviously, who's injured. So, I mean, it seems like there's a lot, not that I look at the Seahawks and I project that they're winning the division or anything of that nature, but you're right. There always seems to be a lot of inconsistencies with them. At the same time, though, I would look at the overall Pete Carroll experience in the NFL, which I think leaves something to be desired. So I'm not surprised at the lack of progress they've made under him.
Well, I think you're bringing up a good point. I think somehow his track record there gets kind of masked because they won a division and upset the Saints in the playoffs, being a 7-9 team. You see, but I look at the fact that they've been a 7-9 team 2 years in a row under him.
Exactly.
So I think this is a very, very important year for Pete Carroll. There's a lot of high hopes for his defense. He's got a lot of good defensive players. I really like them bringing in Jason Jones. Whether he starts or not, it's not the key, but he provides a big underrated inside presence for that line. They're a little inexperienced at linebacker except for Leroy Hill. Secondary-wise, they got 3 Pro Bowlers and some hitters back there as well. So defensively, and if you look at all the defenses in the NFC West, I mean, pretty loaded. The Niners' defense speaks for itself. Cardinals came a long way last year. Seattle's potential, and even with Jeff Fisher in St. Louis, that their defensive line is going to be solid. They brought Cortland Finnegan in. Even though, strange as it sounds, that technically the Rams don't have a defensive coordinator this year with Greg Williams' suspension. So defense is going to be the order of the day, and running the football is going to be the order of the day in that division. Just think of the running backs alone. We get so caught up in all the question marks about the quarterbacks in that division. Frank Gore, Marshawn Lynch, Steven Jackson, Beanie Wells, and even a little smattering of Ryan Williams, who we saw in the preseason, who was hurt last year. You better play some defense, and you better be able to stop the run in that division if you're going to win it.
Matt Flynn should be asking to get traded to Arizona because I can't imagine him signing with Seattle and even imagining the scenario where Russell Wilson is going to take his spot. And now you have Arizona, who Kevin Cobb is just, horrendous, and has other players around the league saying he's scared. And then you got John Skelton. They don't know what he is there. Larry Fitzgerald can't be happy with this. And then, them picking up Michael Floyd as well. They're what are they going to do with that quarterback situation down there?
Well, what's interesting about them, let's also point out a couple other things. Last year, they gave up the second most sacks in the league at 54. The year before, they gave up tied for the second most sacks with 50. Now, even I can do that on my fingers. That's 104 sacks in the last 32 games. Okay, they've gone through 5 quarterbacks, 4 starters, and Richard Bartell has played a little as well. So there is obviously some instability there ever since, obviously, Kurt Warner retired. So the difference, I was in Canton for the Hall of Fame game, and it's the first preseason game. But I've also watched the Cardinals a couple of times on television, and the difference between Kevin Cobb and John Skelton is that when the pocket breaks down, and it breaks down fairly quickly for the Cardinals, you immediately see Cobb trying to get out of the pocket and make something happen. The difference with Skelton is he hangs in the pocket longer. So I don't think it's a matter. I have a tough, players want to say what they want to play. I've never heard a player say the word scared, but I think it's just a matter of, handling the rush and just hanging in there. I mean, I'm watching John Skelton almost throw jump passes against the Saints defense in Canton. Okay, so he wasn't getting any more protection than Kevin Cobb was. But, the problem is as much the line. And by the way, they lost Levi Brown for the season, their left tackle.
Yep.
So certainly things aren't going to get any better. It's got a lot of great quarterbacks out there, but if you can't block for them, you got issues.
And speaking of scared, is it time, in your opinion, do you think it's time for T.O. to get behind a microphone and get out of the cleats? Or do you think that some other team is going to pick him up as, a possible bench warmer to come in the event that the entire team falls apart and they need somebody to go in?
Well, listen, he didn't get much of a look-see. I mean, remember he had that tryout months ago, which a few teams attended. And then Seattle just took a flyer on him. And, I don't know if it's a question. Remember, he was having a very, very good year with the Bengals before he got hurt and missed, I think, the last 2 games. He was on his way to another 1,000 yards with Cincinnati. I want to say he caught 9 touchdowns that year. And that was a Bengals team that was not all that great. They were 4-12 Bengals team, I believe. But he was pretty steady, and he was fairly quiet. And, but he wound up getting hurt. So, you think about his age, how truly healthy he is. And obviously for a team that's been doing everything they can to bring in wide receiver help. But the one thing you saw with T.O. in the 2 games he played, he kept on dropping the ball.
Right.
And that's always kind of been a Terrell Owens problem. He's caught 153 touchdown passes. It's not like you say he drops everything. But he will sometimes drop the obvious one. Remember that bomb that Matt Flynn threw him against Denver, right into the end zone and right through his hands. So,
right.
Be it rust, be it age, be it health, I'm not sure what the problem is. But I'd be kind of surprised if somebody now took a flyer. I mean, Plexico Burress is still out there. There's some other veterans out there as well. But, Randy Moss, it seems like he handled that year layoff fairly well. But then again, he wasn't injured. Terrell Owens was coming off an injury, and maybe it's a bigger factor than we really realize.
How about the Niners? I could see them being as good a team as they were last year with not as good of a record because, the NFC in general has gotten a little better. But kind of give us your feel for them so far this year. Of course, with signing Randy Moss, that wide receiver core has gotten a lot better. But is Alex Smith the type of quarterback that can command that offense?
Well, he's going to get to do something that he rarely have ever done. He's actually going to play in the same system 2 years in a row. But, let's not forget how many times they have changed not only head coaches, but more importantly, offensive coordinators in San Francisco. And, I think Alex Smith answered quite a few questions in that comeback, that wild fourth quarter against the Saints in the playoffs. Now, wide receiver-wise, it's obvious they need help, but Michael Crabtree was there. Josh Morgan is now gone. But they went out and got Moss. They went out and got Mario Manningham. They obviously need more production. Vernon Davis was their entire passing game in the playoffs. So they need more help at wide. I don't think there's any question about that. But I'll tell you one thing. They got a pretty good offensive line. They got quite the stable of running backs, and they added to it with Brandon Jacobs and LaMichael James out of Oregon. And, last year Alex Smith threw only 17 touchdown passes, and he only threw 5 interceptions. And I sincerely believe, and it's a kind of an odd thing to say, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if he wound up doubling his interception. Say he threw 10. So he's coming back and throwing 5 interceptions. Do you expect Aaron Rodgers to throw 6 interceptions this year? I just don't see it happening. But what Alex Smith needs to do is he can't throw 17 touchdowns and 10 picks. He needs to throw about 22 or 23 touchdowns in 10 picks. That other number needs to go up as well. If they get a little more balance combined with that defense, I think they're a very, very dangerous football team. One thing Jim Harbaugh proved last year, we kind of alluded to it already, team can go on the road and win. It's not that they're, hell-bent on just winning games at home. They build their record on winning games at home. They showed last year. And, the teams that wound up beating them last year, was Dallas early in the year, Baltimore in a slugfest on Thanksgiving, and then a hot Cardinals team, and then, a couple miscues in the NFC title game. But I wouldn't find it inconceivable if they would have won the NFC title game that they would have beaten the Patriots in the Super Bowl.
All right, so on the Rams, Sam Bradford, is he going to be closer to what he was his rookie year? Is he going to be more, even though he had the injury issues last year? So what are we going to be looking for with Sam Bradford this year in the St. Louis Rams?
Well, it's interesting you brought up the injuries from last year, and then you brought up his rookie year, because his rookie year, he started out very, very well, but he did slump down the stretch. And then, of course, last year I think he missed 6 games, and it was kind of a disaster in St. Louis to begin with, from start to finish. So I think so far in the preseason, other than the game the other night against Dallas, I think he's played fairly well. And, him and Steven Jackson, they can get any support from their pass game. Remember, this is a team that's finished not only dead last in the league in scoring 2 of the last 3 years, both of those years they didn't even score 200 points. So, this is not exactly an offensive juggernaut. But, Jeff Fisher's going to try to make things happen with the defense, short field. Again, they're going to run into some high-powered defenses in that division alone. So I think Sam Bradford will rebound. I just don't know if he has enough help around him.
So this one, it seems like, but football, it's gotten so much like baseball now to where you can predict something and then it never goes that way. It looks like San Francisco's
aren't your predictions always right?
No,
yeah, right.
Of course. But this looks like San Francisco running away though.
It really
I don't
does.
know if they'll necessarily run away. Okay, they wound up winning the division by 5 games last year. Okay, So let's say they go 11-5. All right, and trust me, I'm not looking at their schedule. I don't look at NFL schedules. I think to look at an NFL schedule in August or April or whenever, and go down the line and say win, loss, win, loss, win, loss. I mean, I've worked in this business for a long time with people who can't pick games week to week. I don't know how you pick month to month. So, looking at a schedule, it's not college football, and that's my point.
All right, joining us now is one of the more recognizable voices in sports radio here in Chicago. He's done voiceover stuff at ESPN 1000, currently at The Score, and he is the czar of Illinois Center for Broadcasting's downtown campus. What's going on?
Wow.
Ernie Scadden, what's going on, man?
I feel honored by my introduction. It definitely out perceives me. I don't know how to say that, but thank you very much. Thanks for bringing me on, guys. I appreciate it.
All right, no problem. We're just breaking down the Bears. So far, they had the big third preseason game. Everybody was all hyped up and geared up for that.
Real quick, I heard a couple of things. I don't think letting Olin Kreutz go at that time was bad. I think Olin Kreutz was done, and it was proven by the fact that he was let go he quit, not quit.
He walked away.
Retired. He walked away on his own terms. He was done. He was done. I think that was good. I didn't like the fact of moving Garza to center.
But that's my point, because they had to make that transition because they went and got the center from Seattle, Chris Spencer, who obviously they haven't even used in that capacity. So the reason I say letting Olin Kreutz go was premature was for that reason. You took Garza out of position where he was viable and you filled a gap. I'm like saying, yes, Olin Kreutz was not at the top of his game. He was on the decline, but because they didn't draft and develop a center, I just think it's something that put them in a more difficult position. I just feel that Kreutz on that O-line, they're better than they were without him. That's just how I felt about that.
I don't know at that point, but you
Not great. I just said better and more secure than what they had.
That's true. I just didn't like the fact they went and got a center and then didn't play.
That's what I'm saying.
Center.
Knee-jerk reaction, like, oops, we need a center, but let's not make him the center. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, let's go get somebody and not put him as center. But, another thing is I think the Bears this year for the first time in my lifetime, and that's 42 years today, the first time in my life.
Happy birthday!
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I got to slip that one in there. But I think it's the first time that they're going to actually run off of their pass, and they have to pass the run now.
Yes.
You saw them loading that lineup and just killing Forte. And I know we don't have our game plan, and I understand that this is not our full complement. But I think we passed the run this year, and it's exciting for me. It's exciting.
Well, I agree. I mean, they finally this year had the ability to spread the field, and that's not something they've had for the last several years. Finally, somebody has come to their senses to realize that you need wide receivers that are truly number ones and stop trying to make Devin Hester into something that he's not. So this is the first season where the Bears look like a team that is actually balanced on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, and it's the first year that I've won in that I'm thinking, wow, you actually are planning for the playoffs. You see how the Bears can get in, and I put them right up there with Green Bay. I don't think Green Bay's that much better. I like Green Bay. I think Green Bay's quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, makes their wide receivers, where I believe the Bears' wide receivers now are going to make Jay Cutler.
But even with that said, though, Ernie, Cutler was pretty good with some pretty bad receivers, though, these last 2 years. Not his first year here, but these last two, he was pretty decent, I think.
He was. Now imagine him with Pro Bowl receivers, because that's what Brandon Marshall is a Pro Bowl receiver. And Alshon Jeffrey, wow, the sky's the limit for Alshon Jeffrey. I can't believe they got him where they got him. When they got him and someone told me, I was like, oh, what? And now you're absolutely right. It puts Devin Hester where he's supposed to be.
What'd you do?
I shivered. Because now you put him next to bookend wide receivers. Oh, and now you let Devin Hester just run wild in different spots because he's hard to guard. He's hard to guard. And he can run in space beautifully. I love what they did when they spread him out and they caught him coming around the back and they just tossed it to him. That's a play that's going to work because now you spread the field with Brandon Marshall on one side, Jefferson on the other. You run him across the back and he's wide open. That's 10, 15 yards every time. I love it.
I will say that even though I like to say it's complicated with the Bears, I will say when you look at their schedule, it does have that playoff feel kind of written there because outside of the division games, they're playing Indianapolis, St. Louis. Okay, I'm not going to say Dallas is a definite win, but it should be. Jacksonville, Carolina, not a definite win, competitive. Tennessee, okay, Tennessee and Houston, maybe. But then you get other teams like, Seattle, Arizona. They've got some gimmies in there if they're playing good football.
If they play the way they started the second preseason game, if they play that way, which I believe they can up to that level, there are definite gimmies in there. And the season is written for the Bears to kind of walk. And you knock on wood, you hope there's no injuries. The injuries are what kill people.
Right.
But you're right. It's kind of set up for the Bears to just kind of cruise through the season and get some wins. And you know what? I don't rush Brian Urlacher back. And I don't care if he comes back in the fourth or fifth game. I don't rush him back. He comes back when he's ready.
I was going to ask you about that.
I'm glad that you brought that up, too. Do you feel like, honestly, that he's coming back? Or do we – I personally think he should sit down. I
think he sits down until he's ready. I don't think it's first game, second game. I think it's the fourth or fifth game that he comes back. But I believe the Bears have enough defensively to hold him in games. They're not going to be that shutdown defense that we've known in the past, that we've come to love in Chicago. I don't believe that. But they can keep him in games. And now with the offense the way it is, we can win those games. I expect us to average 28 points this year at least.
Oh, wow, that's lofty.
We were averaging, I think, 27 last year.
No, you're right. Before Cutler went down, the Bears were hitting on all cylinders. You're right. And about Urlacher, you're probably right. He can stay out for probably like 5 weeks because the bye is the 6th week. He can probably miss the first 5 games, which are Indianapolis. Okay, you'll miss him in Green Bay. Then you got St. Louis, Dallas, and Jacksonville. Technically,
you could theoretically come out of the 4-1.
You could be 4-1 coming out. I mean, you're right, by the bye.
So we're all assuming though that he doesn't have the same effect on the defense that he normally has because their record is pretty awful when he doesn't play.
He is able to change the call at the line of scrimmage, which is a big deal. That is something that is missing when he's not there. I agree.
I just feel like every season we find ourselves looking at Urlacher. Is he going to be healthy?
I don't mind.
Is he coming in? Well, it's not.
We're talking about football.
Oh, I'm sorry, my bad. You're right.
I know. She had to take it there, right? So my thing is, I'm not saying that Urlacher can't come back. I'm not saying that he's not going to fight his way back like he does every season. I'm just wondering if this isn't the season where we say, you know what, Urlacher, you play a position where you're constantly in contact with somebody. And just maybe the wear and tear on his body has really taken a toll. I mean, every season, Urlacher.
That's true.
But
he missed 2 complete seasons. He missed 2 complete seasons. Got hurt in the first and the second game, wasn't it? I believe he missed 2 complete seasons. That kind of takes a year or 2 off of him. I get what you're saying, though. At some point, they get too old.
Yeah, and I want him to go out on top. I don't want it to be like, oh, the old football player that just wouldn't hang up his cleats, and now they had to carry him off the field, and now it's the end.
I don't think he's that far along. I think he still has some mileage left on him.
He's not a young chicken.
No, he's not. And look at you look at Ray Lewis.
Spring chicken anymore.
No, he's definitely the old hen that's probably cackling in the locker room, and they're looking at him like, okay, Urlacher.
It's like Ray Lewis.
You know what? Him coming back, period. Him coming back will infuse that defense with, all right, our leader's back. And even him at 50%, I'd rather have him in the middle at 50% than Roach. Although Roach, he was taking a little bit of charge. They showed him a couple times in that huddle, telling people what they needed to do. But still, you get Urlacher back, and it changes the face of that defense. Now, one thing I'm scared about is Charles Tillman entered safety mode because he was getting eaten up.
Dude, preach that.
Charles Tillman was getting eaten up.
Preach.
But what would they do with that other corner spot? I mean, yeah, everybody would probably right about that, but
not probably.
Kelvin Hayden, maybe. Kelvin Hayden, maybe. I don't know. Try him out. I think at some point, you have to put Tillman in safety. You have to let him play safety.
I agree with you 100% because if it's not the gang tackle mentality with Tillman part of it, one-on-one, he can't bring nobody down. And I've said that for a couple years. I'm like, why does everybody keep saying how great he is when he cannot bring somebody down one-on-one?
Mm-hmm. Not only that, he had a couple of penalties. He got left on that field a couple times, and that's not good.
While we're moving people, though, I'm all for moving Lance Briggs to that middle until Urlacher gets right.
I think
why not?
Earlier in the career would have worked, I think, but now I just think he's locked in over there, and you leave him alone, and you I don't know. I don't know if now's the time to move Briggs. Briggs is. I mean, because you move him, it goes along with the moving Garza into the center.
Right.
Now you're weakening the other position, and I don't know. Lance Briggs has got that locked down. I think at this point you just kind of leave him and you deal with Roach in the center. I think he can hold his own.
You got a few more minutes for us, Ernie?
I do.
All right, hold on, man. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to Stats and Stilettos.
Welcome back to Stats and Stilettos. I am Ty Eileen. I'm sitting here with my co-hosts Maya and Farouk. And we are talking all things Bears and going back and forth and talking about players that could use some improvement, people getting shuffled around, Urlacher constantly fighting injuries. And speaking of injuries, we have just realized, Ernie, that Brandon Harden has been put on injured reserve.
Gone.
He gone for the season. So that's
goes
not
back
an
to
option.
my why not Charles Tillman to safety, and I know it's not going to happen. It's only it's wishful thinking, but wow.
No, but it's the right move. It's the right move because if you think about he doesn't to me have the physical ability to stay where he's at corner. And you talk about safety, he kind of has that good acumen on the field like a Mike Brown. The mindset, maybe not the most athletic, but I think it's a better fit for him at this point because he gets eaten up frequently.
Oh, all the time, and he's lost a step. He was never the fastest. He was always a bigger corner.
Right.
Never the fastest. He was just a ball hawk. He was great. He knew where to be. And now that you've lost a step, it's harder at corner. You're on the island out there. You get beat. The safeties are now hurt. I think you're absolutely right. It's just the right move at this point. Now, you have to go to that player and say, listen, we need to put you at safety. So he has to give of himself and say, all right, I've lost a step. But is he going to do that?
I'm sorry. He's an employee of the Chicago Bears. It's not about if.
True.
It's about you're going to. It's about the approach with folks. I'm just saying.
Okay, so now you think, all right, if they move him to safety, do they have enough at corner to back him up? If they do have a pretty good corner, I guess, complement right now with Hayden there, and you know. DJ Moore's been pretty good at corner also.
Yes.
But is that enough? Now you have to go out and get another corner somewhere. I guess you beat the wires as people are getting dropped right now, as they're getting cut. And you get the best corner or safety available, and you know, maybe you move Charles Tillman.
And this is the issue. It isn't like this issue with Tillman is a surprise. Like, for the last couple years, you've been watching his physical skill set diminish. So I don't understand why this wasn't a thought process from the very beginning coming into this year, that especially when you let Brandon Merriweather go because he wasn't working out. I mean, they tried some different stuff. So it's like maybe this move putting Tillman in, obviously at safety is a better deal. And here's my thing, too. You look at wide receivers in the league. You look at Calvin Johnson. My God, they don't call him Megatron for nothing. You can't have the likes of someone like Tillman trying to do coverage on these very large receivers out there.
One thing in Peanut's defense, though, he has his better games against the bigger guys, like Megatron, like Randy Moss. Like he had his best games.
Megatron transforms all on that, so you can stop.
But he's made some plays on those guys. He's made plays on the ball. He might not be like
he makes a play on the ball when there's 3 people with him. Because they can tackle him all at one time. He can't do it one.
I think y'all being a little hard on Peanut right now. I gotta say,
you're trying to tell me,
man. I don't know if we are. I think we've been a little easy on Peanut. Tell you the truth. And I think I don't know. I hope this isn't a trend what we saw in this last game. But I think we as a fans have been a little easy on Peanut. Peanut is not the greatest at the position he's at anymore.
I
don't even think he's the best quarterback on that team.
No.
I mean, I think you got some other quarterbacks out there that are better on that team. And you know, I don't know. Maybe you give Kelvin Hayden a shot, and you let him do his thing.
This punter thing isn't going to hurt us. This Adam Pavlich thing, is this going to be a problem, or are they a dime a dozen?
I don't know. You know what the Bears need to do is they need to really beat the waiver. People are getting dropped. People are getting cut. You got to try and find the best available person that you can find. And I know we as fans are thinking you move him, but what if you find a really good cornerback out there that's available? Do you think about moving? Do you really move Peanut to safety? I wouldn't mind.
So I like how you just totally disregarded that question, though, man.
Not really. He started it with
But, I mean, it could – special teams are important. It's the third phase of the game. You know.
So, Johnny Knox on the PUP list. When it's all said and done.
Right. Can you –
given the
that list, first of all, physically unable to perform sounds hilarious. Like, it's not the injured reserve list. It's
the PUP.
We don't really know
what that means.
What they're doing, their body is doing. We don't really know, so we're going to call it the the PUP list.
Well, are we talking about Johnny Knox?
Yes.
No, he's done. Yeah. He will never play football again.
Ernie, that's what I was going to say. I think after that hit, I can't see him coming back.
I watched a couple of the games with Matt Bowen and a couple of the guys, and he can't even walk. He has a pronounced limp where he won't walk. He definitely will not play football for years, and the Bears know that. He knows that. They're just waiting to do it correctly. They have to put him on the PUP list, then they have to cut him for injury reasons and give him a settlement. That's what will happen with him, and he's done. He won't. You know,
you shouldn't even play with an injury like that in the first place. Anything that your spine, just let it be.
People thought he had died on the field.
That's
that's how far it went. You know, there was Zach Zaidman said he was getting ready to write about somebody dying on the field. That's incredible. The way he got bent backwards and the way he got, it's a testament that he's a walking period, I think.
Wow. I didn't realize it was that deep going
on. Oh, no, I thought it was that deep. I did. That injury, when you saw that, I was like, wow.
That's true, though. When it happened, I think...
Well, they said if he wasn't a football player, if he wasn't in the physical condition that he was in, that he would be paralyzed right now. He was bent completely backwards and just... It was an awful
it's making
injury.
My body cringe just thinking about it.
All right, Ernie, so what's your forecast so far? This next game is irrelevant against Cleveland, so we're already going to skip past that. What are you kind of looking forward to?
How disrespectful to Cleveland. But
I don't want to see a starter in the game. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not lying. There's no reason for them to play.
Yeah.
Let the second and third teams play. Let's see what you got behind them. You know, Mr. Campbell, how about you show up and play a little bit better?
Now.
I want to see Alshon Jeffrey play. I don't want to see Cutler. I don't want to see Brendan Marshall. I don't want to see the first defense. I don't want to see none of those guys.
So
not one. I don't want to.
Because by Friday they have to have made some serious decisions.
So wait a minute. Does the O-line need to be on the field the whole game though?
Nah, you know what? I'm not as down on the O-line as everybody else. I can't say you guys. I don't know your feelings on them. I think with the offense, with Tice's offense, and with Cutler being able to throw the ball to actual receivers, the O-line is going to be better.
I agree.
Period. It's going to be better.
Yes, it's going to be better. I agree. Tice, like I said earlier, Tice knows what their deficiencies are, and he's not going to try to expose them that way. I think that's a clear difference with letting Martz go, because he was asking the O-line to do things they did not have the talent to do. So clearly Tice is going to make those adjustments. So you're right, they're not as bad as last year, but not because they got better. It's because the system they're playing in is more accommodating to their talent.
But maybe if they had been doing that all along, you would have seen that there are some pretty good guys on the offensive line. I mean, left tackle, you obviously got to get better, but it's not coming this year.
No.
You're going to have to draft that. It's not coming this year. That's your draft next year's offensive line. Period. That's what you got to go after. And I think with what we have, we can go a long, long way. And I think they can hold up enough. I mean, Cutler hasn't been on his back. Cutler hasn't really been down, has he?
No.
So I'm okay with how they perform. I think that we've got a little bit going there. I'm not as down on them as everybody else. I think they'll be okay.
What about the whole situation with Khalil Bell? You know, obviously with him refusing to take the pay cut they wanted, so now you got Forte, you've got Bush. What does it look like, you know, with a third back in the mix?
Well, from what I hear, Armando Allen and Booker are really going at it. I like Booker's return ability, but when will you ever see that? I mean, you're always going to return Weems or you're going to return Devin Hester. I mean, it is what it is. You're not going to see Booker. So I think Armando Allen wins that because they like his ability to catch out of the backfield. Although I argue that Booker probably could have, been catching out of the backfield also. But I think they're stuck on Armando Allen. He's won that battle. I don't mind. I mean, I don't mind Bell. Bell put the ball on the ground a couple times last year. I'm not, whatever. I'm not big on Bell. I mean, that was, I'm friends with Jared Payton. That's his buddy. He loves Bell. And we went to training camp a couple times, and I was never big on him. He had the one good game, but I argue, just about anybody can have a 100-yard game at any time.
All right, Ernie. Okay. Well, thanks a lot. We appreciate it, man. We look forward to you joining us a little more with some Bears analysis.
And again, happy
Me
birthday.
anytime, I'm on it. Anytime. Bears, Bulls, White Sox, no Cubs. Damn the Cubs.
Hey, now, I like it already. There you go.
You fit right in there, man. Take it easy, Ernie.
White Sox.